Carla Bruni. I am the Preservation and Resiliency Specialist with the Chicago Bungalow Association. Brenda, we don't need your slides up just yet. Up to you, but we can see, we're gonna do some intros first. Tonight we're talking about, the title is Home Ties. That's taxes, insurance, energy and sewer savings for seniors. We are aware that there are a lot of very high bills happening right now, and it's become increasingly difficult for folks to pay for their daily necessities, especially our seniors. So tonight we have Brenda Grauer from CARPLS and John Groene, who are going to discuss some ways in which older homeowners can realize savings on their property taxes, homeowners insurance, water bills, and utilities to make their dollars stretch further. It's going to be recorded tonight, so don't worry if you miss parts of it. Don't need to scribble down things frantically or anything like that. If you signed up, we're going to be sending you an email after this that's going to have a link, so easily connect that way. You can also always go to our website at chicagobungalow.org. We've got tons of webinars on there that are recorded, all different kinds of topics, some related to this, some totally unrelated, like gardening stuff, whatever. So feel free to go and skulk around on our website at chicagobungalow.org. We are going to have a Q&A at the end. John and Brenda are going to talk for about 45 minutes or so, and then we'll have about 15 minutes after that. So 7 o'clock, we're going to end for the evening, and we'll get through as many questions as we can. If we can't finish all of the questions, they are kind enough to actually answer them afterwards for you. So Angela and I can take a record of those and send it out with the email afterwards as well, the responses. So don't worry about that either. If you do have questions, please be sure to put it in the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen, not the chat. I think Angela just did a little wave to you guys with a message so you know where to go. So just look down there, go ahead and click when you have something you need to know about. Again, we're going to send an email afterwards with the link, so don't worry if you miss parts of it. And I think that's about it before I just introduce our speakers now. John Groene brings over 25 years of experience working in community development in Chicago, with expertise in housing counseling, loan origination and underwriting, community outreach, and neighborhood revitalization strategies focused on building and maintaining long-term homeownership and strong blocks. While at Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago, Mr. Groene was one of the principal architects of NHS's response to predatory lending, the Homeownership Preservation Initiative, which championed the use of loan modifications and refinance with rehab loans to prevent foreclosures. More recently, Mr. Groene created the NHS PITIE, P-I-T-I-E counseling program, which focuses on lowering housing costs beyond just principal interest for current homeowners, a program that has documented nearly $1 million in savings for Chicago homeowners. Brenda Grauer has been a longtime advocate for housing and economic justice to create thriving, safe, and affordable neighborhoods in Chicago. As an attorney for the last 30 years, Brenda has focused her career on providing direct services and advocacy on behalf of low and moderate income households. At Legal Aid Chicago, she launched the Senior Housing Law Project to represent older homeowners at risk of foreclosure due to predatory lending practices. As a senior policy advisor for Attorney General Lisa Madigan, she created the homeowner helpline that aided over 900 Illinois homeowners per month to save their homes from foreclosure. More recently, Brenda served as the manager of a nonprofit loan fund that provided zero-interest loans for affordable housing and economic development projects in the Chicago metro area. She currently serves as the manager of community engagement for CARPLS, a legal service program that provides free legal consultations to low-income households throughout Cook County. These are two people who really fight hard for y'all, so we're super happy to have you tonight. And Brenda, whenever you're ready, go ahead and take it from here.
Great, thank you so much, Carla. Okay, here we go.
And just a reminder,
everybody
Brenda,
see everything?
Yes, everything looks great, and I'll be in the background. I'm just going to hide my video, but if you need anything, we'll be here if there's any tech issues.
Perfect. So good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for showing up tonight. I know it's the dinner hour, but hopefully this will be will provide some helpful information and answer some of your questions so that you can realize some savings as part of your home ownership. So let's get started. The name of tonight's presentation is Home Ties, Savings for Seniors, Reducing the Costs of Homeownership. And as Carla mentioned, our brief bios, John has been 25 years in community development, former Associate Director of Neighborhood Strategy at Neighborhood Housing Services, and he is really the developer of the curriculum that we're going to go over tonight. So he will be the primary presenter. And then I currently serve as the community engagement manager for an organization called CARPLS. And when you hear the name CARPLS, you're like, what's that? It sounds pretty painful. It's kind of like carpal tunnel syndrome. So I will start this presentation the way I start every presentation. However, I have not yet received a satisfactory answer. I have $100. I promise you, $100. If you can come up with a name for our organization that will pass the straight face test that I can present to my executive director. Otherwise, CARPL stands for Coordinated Advice and Referral Program for Legal Services. We've been around for about 30 years. We run a series of hotlines that service Cook County and also parts for some of our programs statewide to help people with legal issues. When they call into our hotlines, whether it's a general hotline, our veterans hotline, our cannabis expungement hotline, our eviction prevention hotline, you will talk to an attorney for brief consultation and advice. If the situation needs attorney for representation, we will make those referrals. We don't do direct representation, but we do give legal assistance. So the number for our hotline, which will be repeated at the end of the presentation as well, 312-738-9200, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Okay, so let's get started. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to John to get our program off the ground.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, Brenda. So Home Ties, I think this is really a workshop that was born out of the last nearly 15 years of working with homeowners on the west side, the majority of which are seniors, in terms of ways to save money on their housing costs and, basically maintain long-term home ownership. And really focusing on, when we talk about your mortgage, for 95% of us, that mortgage includes taxes and insurance. And so traditionally, housing counseling is focused on interest rate, but what we found is that, most of the homeowners we work with pretty sophisticated about interest rate. They know what their interest rate is, but it's really easy to go on cruise control with the other two parts of your mortgage payment, taxes and insurance. And we're going to get started there. And we thought we were done once we were really focused on taxes and insurance, but then we started to see overcharging by alternative energy suppliers throughout Chicago. So really trying to look at a very broad, a broad inspection of all our costs of being a homeowner. So with that, we can jump right in. If you wanted to add anything, Brenda?
No, we're good.
Okay. So how much you pay in property taxes matter. And so when I start talking about this, most people assume I'm going to be talking about how to appeal the assessed value of your home. But we really focus on what we call the low-hanging fruit that a lot of homeowners might not be as familiar as they should about. So we're talking about the homeowner exemption, the seniors exemption, the senior assessment freeze exemption, and then we're going to touch on persons with disabilities exemption, disabled veterans exemptions, long-term homeowner exemptions, others. But these are the principal four. So let's go to the next slide. Okay. So if you're a homeowner anywhere in Cook County, you'll recognize this as the second of the two installments that we get each year on our property taxes. The first installment, that bill comes out in the wintertime, and it's payable by March 1st, and that's been pretty consistent. The second, although it got pushed into the fall and even the winter during COVID, is back on track. That bill comes out usually around 4th of July weekend, and it's due by August 1st. And once again, you learn very little by inspecting your blue bill, because if I know what your last year's taxes are, I know exactly what your first installment is. It's 55% of what you paid last year. It really is the yellow bill that we're going to focus on. And specifically, we're going to focus on the section at the bottom of the bill, right there in the middle. We could go on to the next screen. Okay, so once again, we're looking at the second installment property tax bill for Cook County. And right there in the middle, here's an example of a homeowner's tax bill. And once again, they're paying nearly $5,500 in taxes, but this is their principal residence. They live there, and so they get the homeowner exemption. Okay, most of us, when we buy our home, we're buying it from another homeowner, and that exemption just stays with the property. And a lot of times we don't even know why they're receiving it. We have seen with a good portion of new homeowners that bought their home from a developer who bought the house vacant, renovated it, and sold it, or they bought from an owner who had been renting out the property, where you'll see the bill and you'll see 0 exemptions. Okay, and so if there's 0 exemptions and this is your principal residence, this is the house you live in, after you've lived in the house for 1 calendar year. Now, once again, it's not just a year, it's 1 calendar year that started on January 1st and ended on December 31st. Once you've lived in the house a full calendar year, you have to apply for it. You only have to apply for it once, and you should see it every year. But I urge everyone, everybody can make a mistake, check to make sure you have this homeowner exemption on your bill for the property you live in. So if you own rental properties that you don't live in, you should see 0 exemptions. There are no exemptions for rental properties in Cook County. So let's go to the next screen, and you'll see 2 other exemptions. One's the senior exemption, and one's the senior freeze. Okay, so the senior exemption you have to apply for. Cook County does not know when someone turns 65. And so you have to know that you have to apply for this. Now, I don't know if for sure they don't know when you turn 65. When I turned 50, the people at AARP sent me a birthday card before my wife or children did. But be that as it is may, and they go by year. So this year in February or March, anybody born in 1958 was applying for the senior exemption for the first time, and freeze if their income was under 65,000. And so this coming year in February or March, they'll open up the applications for tax year 2024 that's payable in 2025 for anybody born in 1959. Okay. Once again, for the senior exemption, there's no income requirements. You can make $1 million a year. The senior exemption is another discount. And the homeowner discount and the senior discount are pretty stable. You know, they might go up. I think right now, this is a 2019 tax bill. I think the homeowner's exemption in the city of Chicago seems to be around like $703. The senior citizen exemption is right around that $550 mark, and it stays about the same. Okay. Now, the homeowner exemption you apply for once. Yes, you check your bill every year to make sure you continue to get it. Same thing with the senior exemption. Absolutely no income requirements. You apply for it once. Yes, check it every year when the second bill comes to make sure you continue to get it. It is the senior freeze is the only one that you have to apply for each and every year. Okay, so no matter what people say, there's a lot of misinformation. People say, oh, I heard you only have to apply once for the senior citizen exemption. That is correct, but that is not the senior freeze exemption. The senior freeze exemption, you fill out an application and they're asking for this year, they want to know what your income was in 2022. It's always 1 year before you think. Now, if you go back to that last screen, people will look at this and they'll say, well, Mr. Groene, why are you spending all this time saving someone $137 a year? And that's where they don't understand how the program works. So the senior freeze is freezing your assessed value. Okay, so every year by law, Cook County assessor has to reassess our properties. And in the area on the west side I worked in, this is one of those reassessment years. Okay, and so if in 2021 they valued your house at 150 and you got the reassessment notice in June that says, hey, your house is now worth 400,000, I tell everybody it's your right to appeal, whether you do it through, you know, a law firm that specializes in that, or whether you do it through do it on your own or with the help of Cook County assessor, you have the right to appeal. Okay, but that's true for everyone except someone who has the senior freeze, because they've effectively frozen your assessed value. So if they've frozen your assessed value going back to the first year you received it at 150, every time your assessed value goes up, your taxes go up like everybody else, but the freeze goes up to eliminate that increase. So when you look at this next bill, you'll see a senior that's had the senior freeze for 20 years, and that discount has risen from, you know, $140 up to over, you know, nearly $1,700. Okay, and you have to renew it each and every year. In basically, they open up the applications. If you've gotten it the previous year, they will mail you a new application, but you have to fill it out based on this coming year. They're going to be asking you, did you live in the house and was your household income below 65,000 this year? And if it was, you fill it out, you submit it. And then when the second bill's out, that's the first thing you look at. Did I get my senior freeze? And I realize that, you know, I live in Cook County as well, that my property taxes are probably a little higher if it weren't for this program, right? I love this program because I can't think of anything worse than someone who bought their home 30 years ago, invested in their community, volunteered in their community, and suddenly the value of their home goes up double and triple, and they have to sell their house and leave a community they don't want to leave because they can't afford their property taxes. And so right now, that income level it's set at 65,000. Okay. And I've got folks that earn more than that. And it's like, look, they've got to draw the line in the sand somewhere. It used to be 55,000 going back about 4 or 5 years. And they did raise it to 65,000. So that is adjusted. Always look at that income level if you're close. But you have to apply for this each and every year. And this is really one of the key programs that keeps people's mortgage payment affordable. And, you know, when people talk about foreclosures, a lot of times, you know, we assume that it's because, you know, someone's fallen behind their mortgage because of job loss or the death of a wage earner, where what we saw is a lot of folks that were falling behind their mortgage, it was because of a shortage in their escrow, that for a whole year, their mortgage company was expecting to pay $2,000 in taxes, and they got a tax bill for $6,000. And so your taxes go up, not to just pay 4,000 more this year, but you got to repay that 4,000 that they paid, even though they didn't have the money in your escrow account. So really a critical program for maintaining affordability. Brenda, as we go to.
Well, and this, I'm sorry, I was just going to add too, this is a particular problem this year. Especially, there was a question in the Q&A. I just kind of glanced at it quickly. I know Carla said she would get to the questions, but someone said, you know, hey, I think it's important to mention the question because we need to do it throughout the presentation. And said, hey, if there's any programs or exemptions that apply outside of Chicago, like in Bellwood or Maywood, you know, let us know. These are countywide programs, and particularly for the south side of Chicago and the south suburbs this year, the new assessed valuations on the properties are out of sight. I was just working with a client today for a case. I actually handled a sale of a property of her home in Olympia Fields. It was a senior about a year ago. And in anticipation of the taxes going up, we held back money in escrow from the sale to compensate the buyer for a possible increase in taxes. We thought the taxes might go up $1,500 a year. The taxes went up $4,000 in this, and she was in her home for 40 years, senior homeowner on a fixed income. She ended up selling her home because she couldn't afford the upkeep anymore and moving in with her daughter. And this just happened today. So check, especially in the south suburbs where those valuations and the assessed valuations are going up so significantly. If you are eligible for the tax freeze, really, really, really important. Okay. It can save you a ton of money. John, were you going to say anything else?
Yeah, just that the homeowner exemptions are, in my experience, are higher in the south suburbs. The property taxes are also higher, but the homeowners exemption hires. All the examples that I'm discussing tonight are all folks that live here in Chicago. And so that standard homeowner exemption is $705. That standard senior exemption $550. You'll see higher amounts in the suburbs, but yes, it's all Cook County. Now, one of the good things about living in Cook County is that if you're missing property tax exemptions that you should have gotten.
Wait, you're going too fast. We haven't
right.
got there yet. We're going to get there. Okay. Yeah. And because the way they calculate the exemption, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds on this, but the way they calculate the exemption is there's a formula that's applied to home valuations called the equalized assessed, you know, the equalizer, basically. There's a number that they'll multiply your home value times in order to get your tax rate. That equalizer tends to be higher in the south suburbs for residential properties because there isn't as much of a commercial tax base. So the homeowners tend to get a little bit higher property taxes. So because you tend to get that higher equalizer number, you also get the higher exemption amount as well. But it's still, taxes are still going up in the south suburbs in particular this cycle. And you definitely want to make sure that you're getting your all your exemptions and the programs that you qualify for. And we're going to get to that last one that John was talking about in a moment. I just wanted to mention a couple of other programs. And for those of you that are online, you know, you're web savvy enough that you can look up also on the Cook County Treasurer's website and Assessor's website to get more specific information about other exemptions out there. A couple that I wanted to highlight. One, there is a persons with disability exemption where it's not as robust as the homeowner's exemption or as the senior exemption, but it is out there. So for instance, with the homeowner's exemption, you actually multiply that equalizer for the assessed valuation by $10,000. For the senior exemption, it's $8,000. For the persons with disability exemption, it's only $2,000, but it's still something. And it is a type of exemption, a category of exemption that will renew every year once you have it. You should check your bill every year to make sure you weren't magically. John and I have both had clients over the years that they've lived in their home for 10, 15, 20, 40 years. And all of a sudden 1 year, their exemptions drop off their property tax bill. One exemption I wanted to mention that's not actually in this presentation, but that can be very, very, very better than any other exemption out there is the Veterans with Disabilities exemption. It is not very publicized. I know that the CBA has done a presentation before with someone from the assessor's office, and they probably mentioned it, but it's worth mentioning again. If you are a veteran with at least a 75% disability, and that's through the Veterans Administration, doesn't mean you can't work. It's not like SSI or SSDI, but if you are certified from the Veterans Administration for up to a 70 or at least a 75% disability, you are eligible in the state of Illinois for free property taxes for the rest of your life and the rest of your spouse's life if the veteran passes, as long as the spouse doesn't remarry. And I actually was taking a class not too long ago, a pottery class. And I was my teacher was a Agent Orange Vietnam vet, and he was certified as disabled. He was in the Marines. He had like, I think, an 80% disability, and he lived in a very high taxing district, and he was complaining about his property taxes. And I said, hey, Dominic, why are you paying property taxes? You're a vet, right? You know, and you've got a disability, right? He said, yeah. I said, you've got free property taxes for the rest of your life. And he didn't believe me. So we bet one round of pottery classes. He checked into it. He said, I've been paying a lawyer all these years to do my taxes. Why didn't my lawyer tell me about it? I said, because you didn't ask the right lawyer. But definitely look into it. It's a huge, huge benefit. So then this is getting to John's question that I kind of stopped him before, is what happens if you don't get the exemptions on your bill? And I can tell you for a fact, because I do national work with seniors regarding reverse mortgages and senior advocacy, etc. I've done work nationally. The state of Illinois, and particularly Cook County, is one of the few places in the entire country that if you don't get the exemption in a particular tax year, you can file what's called a certificate of error and go back and get all of your missing exemptions, all of your missing credits. It's a huge deal. And I just checked the assessor's website today. You can go back as far as 2019. Okay, that's huge. And it comes into the client I was working with today in Olympia Fields, that we thought, oh my goodness, we're going to have to give the buyer of the property all this extra money because the taxes went up so much. But then you know what? My client, the seller of the home, applied for a certificate of error for all these exemptions that she didn't get before. And it was enough to cover the credit, like $5,000, the credit that she would have had to pay the seller, the buyer of her property. It's huge that you can go back. So if, you know, make a mistake, forgot to check it, or because of this presentation tonight, you want to go back and check your bill, do it. And if there are exemptions that you were eligible for that you didn't otherwise claim, file that certificate of error. You can apply online, or you can download the paperwork off the Cook County Assessor's website. Okay, I'm sorry, John.
No, I think that's exactly where I was going with that. It's if you get your tax bill and it looks like this, you have no exemptions, you've got work to do. And yes, Cook County is very generous, allowing you to do a certificate of error going back up to 4 years. And once again, the senior exemption, it's basically you apply the year after you turn 65. So they really go by the date you were born. So if you're born in 58 and you did not apply for your senior exemption, and if your household income is below 65,000, you're senior free, you can do a certificate of error for tax year 2023 that's paid this year. And they're generally pretty good after you apply. And you could do it either paper or online. You know, they want you to upload a copy of your ID that proves your age and your residency. They'll get you the refund within 90 days. They're really good about doing that. And once again, that can be a huge savings. And I implore everybody listening whose parents are seniors and own property in Cook County. I know a lot, you know, I've run into a lot of senior homeowners that were actually more sophisticated about appealing their reassessment every 3 years than making sure they're getting all of these valuable exemptions. So the homeowner exemption, the senior exemption, you apply for once. Every year you check the second installment, make sure you continue to get them, but you only have to apply for those once. But the senior freeze, no matter what anybody tells you, you have to apply for every single year. And those born in 59, I think one of our viewers said she was born in 59, you would be applying in February, March, when the applications for tax year 2024 are available. You would apply for the senior, and depending on your household income, apply for the senior freeze. So once again, our mortgage payment, for 95% of it, includes property taxes and insurance. So the cost of our property taxes is important, but also our homeowners insurance. And so once again, the average cost when we first started looking at this, and this was going back to about 2011, we really looked for average cost of homeowners insurance in Chicago, in Cook County, and it's really hard to find that. And so this is basically 15 years of working with homeowners in the West Side and kind of, creating an average amount. So the average cost over these last 15 years, and we're talking about 100% replacement cost. So that if, tornado blows your house over, there's enough insurance to put the house back the way it was. So single family home, about $1,500. A 2-unit building, $2,200, somewhere between $2,000, $2,500. 3-unit building, even a 4-unit building, that $2,800 to $3,000. And that is higher than, 2 years ago. It was still hovering around $1,200 and $2,000, $1,200 for single family homes. We've seen that grow. And once again, the two biggest discounts in insurance are claim free. You haven't filed a claim on your insurance in the last 3 years, and the home auto discount. So this is a homeowner we work with who actually came into us, and his son brought him in, and his son brought him in saying, I don't think my dad can afford his house anymore because his Social Security is only $1,800. And, look, his mortgage is almost $1,100. And I'm like, well, I get it. That's a pretty high mortgage. But we looked a little closer and we looked at the escrow and it seemed high. And so we first looked at his mortgage. It was a 3% fixed mortgage. It was a great mortgage. And he actually told us he didn't bring in his homeowner's insurance policy. He's like, look, I haven't made a claim in over 10 years. I don't even know who my insurance company is and how much I pay. And so we looked at his end of year statement, and it shows that his lender had paid $5,967 for insurance on his home the previous year. So we called up the lender, figured out who the insurance policy was with. And once again, at this time, the average was, this is going back to about 2020, 2019, the average cost was still $1,200. Now, when we first started doing this, we were a little naive, and we would tell people, go back to your insurance agent, have a come to Jesus talk with them, and they'll right size your policy. In our experience, what they would get was tap dancing from the insurance agent saying, there's nothing I could do about it. It was the forest fires. It was the earthquake, the hurricane, it's your neighborhood, all these kinds of things. And they wouldn't do much. So what we started doing is helping folks comparison shop, getting 2 other quotes from 2 different companies, apples to apples, making sure you're getting the same amount of insurance, not less insurance, but the same amount of insurance at a better price. And in this case, he got 2 bids. I think he went with this one. It looks like a State Farm policy. And right there, the average was $1,200. It came in at $1,211. And I like this example because it shows right there the 2 biggest discounts in insurance, the home auto discount and the claim record discount. Okay. Now backing up though, before we assisted this homeowner in comparison shopping apples to apples with other companies, their insurance policy. And once again, you always want to comparison shop both together, your home and your auto. we went through a series of questions about his home. So first was, and we already knew the answer, he hadn't made a claim in over 10 years. So we knew about his claim history was clean. But the next thing is, what is the condition of the exterior of your home? Do you have missing shingles? Is there a hole in your roof? Is your gutter hanging? Do you have broken windows, crumbling stairs? Because anytime you switch insurance, within those first 90 days, the new insurance company is going to send out an inspector to do an exterior inspection of the home. And if they find something wrong with the home, you're going to get that nasty gram that says you need to fix this, this, and this, or we're going to cancel your policy. So very important. And this is why, you know, access to home equity lines of credit, home repair grants, all those things are so important, because you might be stuck with a very high insurance policy until you've made those repairs. But in this case, house was in good condition. And so he went ahead and sent the bill for $1,211 to State Farm, or to his lender, and they paid it. Now, here's the more important thing. Sometimes the insurance agent will help you with this. Sometimes they won't, but I had a couple cases where people comparison shops, saved money, felt good, and were confused why their mortgage went up. It is your responsibility as the homeowner to cancel the previous policy. Okay. Sometimes it can be easy as a phone call to your former insurer. Sometimes you actually have to write a letter saying, and showing them proof of your new insurance, saying, hey, I'm canceling my insurance. Here's proof of my new coverage. And they will refund you back to the day you send proof of new coverage. So if you cancel a month later, they still have to refund you back to the day you showed proof of new insurance. Okay. There's a couple insurance companies based in Illinois that have some new policies. I've seen people that they forgot to cancel, and they canceled their former policy 3 or 4 or 5, 6 months later, just because they forgot to do it. And the insurance companies refunded them. They call it the unearned premium back to the day they showed proof of new coverage. At least one insurance company is saying, oh, sorry, we won't cancel and refund your policy going back more than 30 days of the day you call or send an email or send a signed letter. But in this
So
case,
the moral of the story is just to get, when you get that cheaper policy, call your other company, just like you would do with car insurance, cancel that other insurance so that you get your full refund back. You know,
right.
That's going to be really important. So, what we have here is a side-by-side comparison showing this very same homeowner, when they had their policy that was almost $6,000 a year, their homeowner's insurance, they couldn't afford their home with their payment at $1,100 a month, $1,088. All of a sudden, their mortgage payment goes down to $555. It's cut in half, almost literally in half, just because of the reduction in insurance, and the person could afford to live in the home. I mean, because that's what we're trying to do here, is to minimize expenses, to make home ownership more affordable so that you can all age in place and stay in your great homes, in your neighborhoods and your blocks that you like so much. Okay.
I think we can skip for time's sake, we can skip the second example. It's very much the same, where, you know, $600 was saved and we did not touch the interest rate of the mortgage. These are just more examples of folks that don't believe me. They say, John, you found one horror story. It's not a big deal. And so here's a single family home with a $4,800 premium. There's a single family Chicago bungalow in the upper right-hand corner with a $6,053 premium. That's a 2-unit with a $5,200 premium, nearly $5,300. And there's a 2-unit with a nearly $7,400 premium. And so once again, what is going on here? Okay. Most homeowners realize that claim history, if you make lots of claim, your insurance is going to go up, right? And a lot of homeowners realize that they're now using credit score. The higher your credit scores, the lower your premiums. The lower your credit scores, the higher your premiums. But there's another thing that a lot of companies are doing, and it's called price optimization. basically saying, if you have insurance with a company, they have access to your credit and your spending habits, and they're using computer analytics. And if their computer analytics say you're not sensitive to cost or price, you're not going to shop around, you're loyal, the computer analytics say raise the premium, having nothing to do with your risk, and you're probably going to stay. So that's why we always go back to what is the average cost of insurance we see here in Chicago. And once again, single family homes, 1,200 to 1,500, 1,600 in that area. 2 units, 2,000 to 2,500, 3 units, 2,500, 4 unit, up to 3,000. Okay. So we're focused on people's property tax exemptions and their homeowners insurance, and of course their auto insurance, because home auto discount, right? And we thought we were done. But then now, before the pandemic, most of us know who these companies are, because they were knocking on our doors saying, change over to our company, we'll save you a lot of money. We got kind of a break during the pandemic, and now you usually find these companies passing out gift cards at the Home Depot and Lowe's and Menards. But this is alternative energy suppliers. So for the last 20 years or so, Illinois opened up the supply market for electricity and gas, and you can choose from dozens and dozens of suppliers. But there's only one in the city of Chicago. There's only one regulated supplier for electricity, ComEd, and one regulated supplier of gas, and that's People's Gas. Now, there's another not-for-profit out there, Citizens Utility Board, or CUB, really great website where you see what the regulated rate is. You see all the different, really good not-for-profit doing great work. So, and they'll show you at any given time. So everybody here knows what this is. This is a ComEd electric bill. Okay. Even if you have an alternative supplier, you still get your bill from ComEd. But I want you to focus to the left of the big circle in the middle of the bill that says the current charges, because your charges are made up of delivery, which does not change. There's only one, and that's ComEd, and supply. So in this case, we pointed out the homeowner that he had an alternative energy supplier. Okay. And so if you see that on your bill, what I urge you to do is go to the second page to see what that supplier is charging you. Okay. Now, right here, it shows that the homeowner the past month used 1,321 hours of electricity, kilowatt hours, and they were charging him 15.4%. Okay. And that's $203 when you multiply that out. To the bottom right hand, so this is in the second page of bill, it actually says, and this is mandated going back to 2019 to the current Attorney General Kwame Raoul. He mandated this one sentence be added to every bill. The ComEd electric supply price to compare is 6.473 cents per kilowatt hour. And this is going back to 2020. I think the rate is still below 7 cents, the regulated rate of ComEd. Okay. And so if you do the math on that, going to the next page, if he had never switched away from ComEd, his supply charge would have been $85. Instead, his supply charge was $203. So he paid $117 more than the regulated rate. And so in cases like this, what do? If you go back to that first page, you'll see if you have that second page, one more page, there's always an 800 number. Okay. If you have an alternative supplier, there's an 800 number, and you call them and you say, I want to cancel my contract and I want to go back to ComEd as my supplier. Okay. Now, remember,
in case you can't see it, the phone number is in the lower left-hand corner in very small print. So put on those magnifiers, but it's there. you want to call them, it says it gives you a website, www.greenmountain.com, and then that phone number, 1-800-274-5279. It'll be in the lower left-hand corner of your bill. Might be tiny print, but it's going to be there. And in this case, it would have saved the homeowner over $100 on that 1 month's electric bill alone.
Right.
Okay.
And when you call to cancel, remember you're talking to someone from that company, and one of their jobs is to convince you to stay. Okay. And so in this case, the homeowner called and canceled. It takes about 2 months to switch back. So the next month, he paid $127 more than the regulated rate of ComEd. And then if you go to the next bill, this is how we knew he was back with ComEd. Because once again, you look to the left of the big circle in the middle, to the right there, circle in red, ComEd provides your energy. Okay. And so do I own stock in ComEd? I do not, but they are the regulated supplier. They have to charge all of us the same thing as reviewed by the Illinois Commerce Commission. And so there's safety in that number. And so check your bills, check your parents' bills, check your uncles and aunts' bills, because I've seen, those are big numbers. Next, the gas bill. Okay. So on the first page of your gas bill, and those here who have People's Gas, you'll notice this is a People's Gas bill. And it's really hard on the first page to see if you have alternative supplier. What's missing is the gas charge line. And you'll see a bill with that put back in it. But the best way to know you have an alternative supplier is you'll have a second page to your bill. And when we get there, in the upper right-hand corner, right there, Brenda has circled. In this case, Spark Energy Gas was supplying energy. Okay. Now, the Attorney General did not apply that law to the gas companies, so they don't have to put what the rate is. So we had to divide out the service charge by the number of therms they used. And we saw that the rate they're being charged was 48 cents per therm. I don't know why they don't call it gallons, but they call it therms for heating gas. 48 cents per therm plus a $4.95 just because fee, a junk fee. Brenda knows those from back in the subprime lending days. And so what we did is compared it with what he would have paid for People's Gas, and he paid $7.29 more. Now, once again, they say, Mr. Groene, why are you spending all this time saving someone $7 a month? So he called and canceled. And if you go to the next bill, by the time he was back, and you'll see the gas charge is back on the first page of the bill. Okay. And he was paying 48 cents plus a junk fee of $4.95. Well, he's back to the regulated rate at the time was 27 cents. Okay. And you go to the next bill, and he no longer has a second page on his bill, and he saved $44 by canceling. So once you've canceled and you're back with People's Gas, you will no longer have that second page with the name of another company in the upper right-hand corner. Okay. And, we documented on the West Side, well over 100 of these cases. And out of those hundreds of cases, I only found one where someone was saving monies with an alternative supplier. So buyer beware. Next page. And this is where I hope there's some community activists that'll lead protests. So when Attorney General Kwame Arul struck this deal where he required they put the regulated rate of ComEd on every bill, which I think is a fantastic thing, Crane's Chicago Business did an article on it. And on the second page of the article, and these are their highlights, not mine, they actually stated, the business model many firms employ now relies on their customers not noticing they're paying too much until months or even years go by. So that's led to more than 1 million households just in Illinois buying from retail suppliers. They're only talking about the electric portion, to collectively pay more than $100 million above what they would have with ComEd in each of the past 2 years, according to, and they should know, the Illinois Commerce Commission. Okay. So buyer beware. Look to the left of the big circle on your ComEd bill. Do you have a second page of your people's gas bill? Buyer beware. And remember, Citizens Utility Board can help, doing some good work over there. And once again, People's Gas is the only regulated supplier of heating gas in the city of Chicago. ComEd is the only regulated supply of electricity in the city of Chicago. And you can find out everything you ever wanted to know about gas and electricity at citizensutilityboard.org.
And if you're outside the city of Chicago, it's NICOR gas. That's the regulated gas program. And then you guys wanted to pipe in a little bit about
Yes.
the home energy savings program.
Great program.
Thanks. Yeah. Just wanted to mention we have applications open for this again. So if you want to go to our website, chicagobungalow.org/programs, you can apply right on the website. It's pretty quick. It's for homeowners and or renters with homeowner consent, single family homes, 2 flats, condos, mobile homes, manufactured homes, and townhomes. Located within the ComEd service territory. It's, let's see, you'll need to fill out 2 forms for this one. So just keep that in mind. There'll be 2 forms. It used to be there was only 1 form, and you're going to need your utility account numbers to complete the application. Weatherization improvements can vary with this. We have the same program for quite a while. This one, there's sort of different levels of the program. You'll find out more though once you actually apply to see what you're eligible for, but definitely worth doing. We've have a long history with this program. So go ahead, hop online and apply. If you have any questions, you can also give us a call at 312-675-0300. We're a small but mighty staff, so we'll respond to you very quickly. No worries. Yeah, just wanted to plug that. So thanks for letting us pipe in.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah, referred a lot of homeowners to the program. They were all very pleased. Really
Thank
good
you, John.
feedback.
Yep.
Thanks.
Savings, you know, there are programs out there, and you might be surprised that some of those programs are directly with utilities. So if you're struggling to keep up with bills, look to ComEd, look to NICOR Gas, look to People's Gas. And the most common program out there that people are aware of is the LIHEAP program. So the Low Income Heating and Energy Assistance Program. Now, the income guidelines is 200% of the poverty rate. It is very low for a person, you know, a single family household. It's like 25,000. It's really low. But if you qualify for that program, that is assistance with your electric bill and people's gas bill, and it's a program you have to apply for each and every year.
This one is my absolute favorite. I'm just chiming in because I never knew it before I had talked with John. Sitting and I was in his office one day and he was talking to a client. The city of Chicago has a senior sewer service exemption program, which if you look at your water bill, and I never really did, I just got the water bill, I looked how many cubic feet, meters or feet, whatever is yards of water I had used, and that was it. And it's like, okay, somebody's taking too long showers. Half your water bill is for your water, you know, your fee for using the water. The other half is for your sewer tax. They're equal parts. And in the city of Chicago, if you are over 65 years of age, if you have a single family home only, it's only for single family homes. Most bungalows are going to qualify, right? It eliminates the sewer charge from your monthly bill. You get it regardless of income. So apply. It basically, for all intents and purposes, cuts your water bill in half. So savings you may not know about. I never knew about that. And then there's a City of Chicago Utility Billing Relief Program, single family or 2-unit homes only. Income eligibility is determined by CETA. If you're eligible for LIHEAP, you should already be eligible for that program as well. But the big thing is the sewer tax. And if you didn't know about it before, now you know. It's a great savings.
Now, the
general
UBR program, just to add in there, the city of Chicago, and this was started by Mayor Lightfoot. This is for if you are income eligible for LIHEAP. The city uses that determination if you own a single family home or a 2-unit, and I think they just expanded it out to 3 units. It is the same discount. It almost cuts your water bill in half, and even better, it will set aside delinquency. And if you pay on time, this almost half of what your bill used to be monthly, they will forgive it after a year. And so if any questions about that, if you go to CETA because you're income eligible for LIHEAP, when you go this year, don't just take, your ID, your social security card, your proof of income, and your gas and electric bill. Also take your water bill, because the utility billing relief program almost cut your bill in half, and it helped a lot of families with delinquencies that they'd been struggling with for years. Okay. So the senior sewer service charge exemption, yes, it cuts the bill almost in half, but only for seniors. No income guidelines. You can make $1 million a year. If you're a senior, it's a single family home, you live there. It eliminates the sewer charge, and it cuts your water sewer tax in half. So it's actually, as Brenda says, almost eliminates or cuts the bill in half. So the UBR program, go to CETA also with your water bill, because if you qualify this is another program, unfortunately, only in the city of Chicago.
Right. And the thing here, there's no age restriction. So with the city of Chicago senior sewer tax service charge exemption, that's for 65 and older. The UBR program does not have an age limitation. So I know we're coming up very short on time. We want to try to answer a few questions. This will be posted on the website, on the YouTube channel, I guess, for CBA, some general money saving tips, since we're talking about money saving. That you can catch on your own. And we just want to thank everybody for your participation. I think we started the presentation and there were 99 people who were on. We're finishing with 118. So we've gained steam while we've gone on. So we appreciate everybody who's stuck with us. Thank you for coming out tonight. If you have any questions at all, questions that we don't get a chance to answer this evening, the CBA folks will forward the questions and John or I will answer them. If you want, you could, for also follow-up questions, you can contact our hotline at CARPLS, which is 312-738-9200. And with that, Carla, I don't know if we have a couple minutes for questions.
Sure, yeah. Why don't we take 5 minutes or so? You answered a bunch of stuff already, and some of these are kind of saying the same thing. It really is a testament to you guys. We had 120 people until like 2 minutes ago, on like the most beautiful evening ever, stuck at their computers watching this, knowing it's being recorded even, so
yeah.
I prayed for rain.
A lot of people wanted to know how they're determining what your income is. Like, what do you need to apply for the senior freeze, and how are they determining whether you make less than 65K?
So what I always suggest is using your federal income tax return. So this year, if you were applying, you would basically fill out the senior freeze application, and it's very much set up like a 1040 tax return. How much did you receive in wages if you're still working? What was your Social Security? What was your pension? What was your rental income or loss? If you own a 2-unit, sometimes that's a loss. If your household income's below 65,000, and that's also how you protect yourself, because in theory, you could get audited. And if you're using your federal income tax return that says, well, there it is, my household income last year was 45,000. Well, they're done. And so, yeah, use your federal income tax return.
And is that adjusted gross, or sorry, Brenda?
No, go ahead.
Just
go ahead,
Carlos. To that, we just had someone ask if it was the adjusted gross income or the total income.
I believe it's the adjusted gross income, but I will check and then I'll send out I'll answer the question, Carla, or John or I will, and we'll send you the response.
Great.
I believe it's
Yeah.
adjusted gross income. I thought another question, another issue though, is if you don't pay income taxes, send proof of income, right? You're going to send your benefits statement if you're getting Social Security, your pension statement, etc. If you don't pay, well, pension you might pay taxes, but so if your income is only Social Security, you might not.
Yeah,
So you
you
want to
use your
send that in.
1099s from the previous year. They don't ask for proof of your income. But what I tell people is to protect yourself if, in case you're audited, just use, if you don't have to file taxes because your only source of income, Social Security, and even if your pension's low, you still don't have to file federal income tax returns, use your 1099s. If it's less than 65,000, apply and then check when the yellow bill comes that you receive those discounts.
Okay. We have a question: if a senior is the owner of one residence and gets discounts and is a joint owner with another person for another residence, but doesn't live in the joint residence, can the joint owner apply for the discounts in their name?
Nice try. It's only your primary residence.
Yeah, I had a man and
Nice try.
wife once say, well, this is my wife's residence and she lives there, and this is my residence and I live here. And I'm like, yeah, Cook County Assessor is going to ask to see the divorce decree. So I'll
Mhm.
produce it
Yeah.
right now. I don't want to play that game. And I really like this program. So I get angry when people ask for assistance in filling out the applications. I'd always do it if they had their tax return or their proof of income there. I wasn't going to make stuff up because this is a critical program for lots of families. If you're making 90,000 in retirement, I'm sorry, you don't get the senior freeze, but it helps a lot of families and it's critical.
How do you
You're
apply for
tough.
Yeah, I can tell. You both are, let's be real, but you're like, nice try. So how do you apply for the Chicago Senior Sewer Service Charge exemption if you're not going to CEDA?
I Googled the City of Chicago Senior Sewer Service Charge exemption, and you will see the application come up. You fill it out with your water account number, your name, your address, your phone number. They want a copy of your ID. This you can do on your 65th birthday. Actually, well, I mean, do the next day. With a copy of your ID, a copy of your water bill, and a copy of your last tax bill, because they want to know, are you 65? Is it a single family home? Do you own the home? What's your count? And boom. And you can actually send it to utilitybilling@cityofchicago.org. You don't even have to mail it anymore.
And what is the definition of senior for these programs? And is that age consistent across all senior programs?
So
For these programs
City
you
of
mentioned tonight,
Chicago,
it's 65.
yeah,
All 65, okay.
water program is 65, your 65th birthday, and the senior exemption and freeze, it's based on the year you were born. So this coming year, you can apply if you're born in 59. This year, you had to be born in 58 to apply.
Okay, and can you still get any exemptions if your income is more than 65,000?
You can
Yeah,
get the
yeah.
homeowner exemption, you can get the senior exemption,
Okay.
right? Because that's not income dependent, right? Your the veterans exemption is not, the veterans the disabled veterans exemption is not based on income. You know, disability exemption not based on income. So you have to look at the requirements for the various programs.
Yeah, the only exemption that's income dependent is the senior freeze.
Right.
Okay.
When technically the long-term homeowner exemption, but that's for another time.
Right.
The person with the two households where they're a joint owner, and the other person is her daughter, not a spouse. So she's wondering if that, she or he, I'm not sure, is wondering if,
Doesn't
that-
matter.
Well,
So
if
you
the
only get
daughter
it
owns
once
it,
because you're
I think if the
right.
daughter owns it and lives there,
Right,
the daughter can apply.
through the parent.
No.
Okay,
No,
Daughter would
no.
have to apply on
No.
the home where she's the principal resident. the senior can only do it on the home they live in.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But they
Right.
can't get the senior exemption. You know, the daughter can't get the senior exemption. She can only get the homeowner exemption because she lives there. That's her principal residence.
Okay. Let's see. I'm not sure these aren't terribly clear. So is it beneficial to have a water meter installed as a senior?
They won't do that anymore unless you get your lead pipe replaced.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they stopped installing water meters because what they discovered is they had to cut through that lead pipe, which disturbed the lead pipe and released lead. So they stopped doing it. There's now a equity lead service pipe replacement program that you could apply for, which is a really good program. And only if you do that will they put in a meter. And so, but yeah, in the end, that's the direction there. Everybody's going to have a meter eventually, but you can't call. You used to be able to call and get them to install a meter. They won't do that because of the liability, because they're disturbing the lead pipes.
Okay. Yeah. And I think just one last one. Is there any, like, what's available for a person with no mortgage whose income is 8,500?
A year?
I'm assuming.
Yeah. Right. So they're getting, it sounds like $800 or $900 a month, $800 a month Social Security, or maybe they're just living on SSI, you know, like 750, 700, 750 a month. I mean, they would qualify for the homeowners exemption. They'd qualify for the senior freeze. They'd qualify if they're a senior, well, they're getting Social Security. So I'm assuming it's that they're a senior. Although it could be like SSI. They would qualify. There's a senior tax deferral program, which we haven't talked about this evening.
And then LIHEAP.
And possibly, and LIHEAP, I mean, then possibly consider a reverse mortgage, which if you go on the YouTube channel, you'll see a presentation on that and whether that might make sense to keep that senior in their home, depending on the value of their home. They don't have a mortgage, they have 100% equity, but that's a talk for a different day.
Okay.
Right. And then my last soap up is always this, you know, we've all as homeowners gotten the advice, hey, if you pay extra to principal, you can pay off your 30-year mortgage in 23 years. You make one extra payment a year, all that. I hate that advice. Hate it. Because they don't ask the follow-up questions. Number one, do you have credit card debt at 29% that you haven't paid off? And two, what do you have saved? Okay. Too many folks are spending all their extra money paying extra principal, get rid of that mortgage. And I ask them, what do you have saved? And then I say, I have $2,000 saved. And so I tell people, if you're paying off your credit cards in full every month, and if you have 25,000 in emergency savings, which is also the cost of a new roof these days for most, if you really want to pay extra principal, you can, but too many people, you're walking. If you don't have access to 25,000 in savings, you're walking the tightrope without the rope. You're not going to get to that 23 years. You're going to lose the property because once again, fixed rate mortgage is only principal and interest. Your mortgage can balloon if your taxes go up unexpectedly or your homeowner's insurance goes up unexpectedly. And that's where I see a lot of families falling behind. So yeah, you pay your credit cards in full and you have 25,000 in emergency savings that only you and your significant other know about, because the whole family can't know you got that much saved because you know what'll happen. Then you could pay extra principal, but that's why I hate that advice. It's advice. They're assuming that everybody's got 50 grand in the bank.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get.
No, that was good. That was good. I mean, very good advice. And maybe just what we've seen with property taxes, you know, like you'd be in such a pickle. Well, that was super helpful. I think we got through everything unless Angela's putting things for an email to you guys, but I think we might have really kind of gotten through this.
Sure.
Thank you.
And anything else, just send us an email and we'll respond tomorrow.
Great. And
Okay.
we're, I just reminded everybody, we're going to be sending out this recording and stuff, so don't worry about that. You'll be getting materials sometime within the next week or so for sure. So thanks to everybody for coming out, staying in tonight, all that. And thank you so much to Brenda and John. This was super helpful. I want to send it to so many people right now. I have like a list in my mind where I'm like, oh my gosh, I definitely didn't know about several of these things. So, thank you again. It means a lot to us and to the members. So have a wonderful rest of your evening. And
Great. Well, and I should say you're our initial audience. So we've just put this together as kind of a package. So we wanted, this is our test run. So I'm glad it worked out. And we look forward to working with you guys again.
yeah, and
Thank
Brenda
you.
will be doing more seminars in the future as well. And probably we'll try to rope John in as well. So
Yeah. Well,
you guys
thank
are an
you.
amazing team.
Thank you, Brenda and Carla, for putting this together, and Angela. Really nice work.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank
All
you.
right, have a great evening.